Where else?
Where else? Didn't want her anymore, so now we have to get rid of her.
Okay.
Raffle tickets? I'm jealous. I would take it.
Who else needs a care sheet? Anybody?
Now he wants her in Minnesota, and I said, no, it's too cold.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds like somebody's phone's ringing.
I think it's something.
Okay, we ready? Okay, I'm Ken, my wife Connie. We're part of OC Balls. And first of all, I don't do a lot of public speaking. If you can't hear me, let me know. If you have any questions, just interrupt me. I don't care. It'll be easier for me. I got a little cheat sheet. I started reading, well, I bought my first normals in 2005. I bought 5 normal females, raised them up for a year, then bought a male albino, and raised him up. 2007, I had my first clutch, all had albinos, only 4 eggs, I kept 1. Raised her up for another 2 years, bred her back to dad and got the first albino, so it takes forever. And I just kept buying stuff, reinvesting into it. I picked OC Balls. I was trying to think of something Orange County, and I kept thinking West Coast choppers, and that wasn't good enough, so I thought OC choppers. I'm into bikes, but it just, everything was OC, so I did OC Balls. And I'm what they call a hobby breeder. Real small, I only have about 33 snakes or so right now. That's for a breeder, that's not very many. My friends think I'm crazy, that's a lot, but it's not that many. It only takes up about 5 feet, 2 ways in a little L shape, and just go up in a rack, so it doesn't take up any space. And the ball pythons themselves, they're great beginner snakes. They only get 3 to 5 feet. Female's bigger, and they're not aggressive at all. If I would have done this 2 weeks ago, I would have said never been bit, but I got bit. Showed it off. So I made somebody over, you know who you are, and I was showing them all. It's like, this was really cool, and I wasn't really paying attention, and there was rats in the room, and I just picked it up, and it didn't even latch on, but it just got me, it just surprised me. But I've had some try where they come jumping out when there's food, but they never got me. I was picking up, but this time they got me. So from 2005 till 2 weeks ago, I never been bit. So that's a pretty good thing. And I don't handle them every day. I just, when they're babies, I handle them, and then, you know, once a week, I just look at them or something like that, so they don't take, I don't have to handle them every single day to tame them down. This albino girl, she actually went to a birthday party we did. It's the first time she's been out of the house, and all the kids, I don't think I would take her to a big, huge event, but the kids at the birthday party were great. She was perfectly fine. So, I guess just going to caging. The caging for me is very simple. You can use aquariums, you can use vision cages, whatever. I use the racks. And this is the size I use for babies, and I don't do anything special. Just I use just unprinted newspaper. It's really easy. I just wash it out. I don't even try it. I just shake it a little bit, but the paper is okay to get wet because it needs to be humid. Bowl and a hide box. And some people don't use those, but I like to give them a little bit of safety and security. And then this, I don't have anything bigger than this. And the big, huge ones I keep in here, and they're perfectly fine. They live underground. They live in termite mounds or rodent bins or bowls if they abandon them. One thing that I just started doing is when I move the babies up from this size to the big size, sometimes they get freaked out because it's too big and they won't eat. So I just keep a small hide box. I just put it right under the big one. And they'll go in there and they'll just go inside this. And then eventually when they can't fit in it, they don't, well, I have my one from Nelly, I'll show you him, but he doesn't fit in here, but he still wants to hide in there. Once he doesn't hide in there, then I'll move him up. But the main thing on caging is the heat. You want to have it under the tank, tub, whatever it is. Humidity, well, heating, you need to have it like about 80 or the high 90s, mid 90s in the back, or on the hot side, and then the mid 80s on the cool side. And humidity, I don't really gauge it, but it should be between 50-70%. I don't have a gauge to do that. You just get to learn it after a while. You can tell if they're not shedding well, we need to bump up the humidity. I always spray them down a lot when I see them going into blue. Helps them shed a little bit better, but they're notorious for not shedding well. If you get bad sheds, you can soak them, and then help them finish shedding. What else on caging? The substrate, I mean, you could use shavings. Like I said, I just use paper. They don't need any lighting. They're nocturnal. They don't need UV lighting. The light is just for us. Anybody have any questions on caging or husbandry or anything like that before we move on? Does anybody else breed ball pythons? Nobody? Anybody else have ball pythons or had them? No. Almost everybody. I figured that much. Well, feeding. Well, everybody already knows feeding then. The babies I feed every 4 to 5 days. Adults, I offer it once a week. They might eat every week, every 2 weeks. And the large adults, they'll eat once a month or so. They don't take it every day. So we'll do genetics then, and my nice charts that I have a typo on, my wife noticed on the way over here, so we'll change it. Like you said, what is it, recessive gene? But so there's recessive, dominant, and codominant. I guess the easiest way to describe recessive is basically when you're breeding, both parents have to at least carry the gene, whether it's visual or head for the recessive gene, like albino or head albino. They have to at least be the head albino to get albino. Some of the recessive genes like the albino, caramel albino, xanthic, pied, clown, ghost, genetic stripe, those are all recessive genes. The codominant is something that has a super form, like a pastel has a super pastel. The yellow belly, 2 yellow bellies make an ivories. That's sometimes they call it the super yellow bellies. Well, the black pastel, cinnamon, champagne, and sheep fire, Mojave yellow bellies, vanillas, and red xanthic. Those are all examples of codominant. And dominant works the same way, except there's no super form of it, like a spider. You breed spider to spider. That one's a particular one's a lethal gene, but you wouldn't get anything but spiders. You want to get there's no super form of a spider. What else? Pinstripe, walnuts, calicos, deserts. There's no super forms of them, so those are dominants, but they work just like codoms when you breed them to other snakes. So, talk about how the head stuff works. I don't know if you guys, how much you know, or if you're bored, let me know. But you guys don't know, there's a website called World of Ball Pythons, and if you want to know how to make something, you don't know what you're going to make when you put them together, it's so easy. It's a genetic wizard. You just put in what your male is, your female is, it'll tell you what you're going to get, or you just type in what you want, like to get, and it'll tell you how to make it. So you don't have to do the old-fashioned way like this. This is how I learned. And so the recessive albino and normal. So I don't know all the correct terms and everything for how this works, but I think this is what I know. So the normals is just 2 N's for normal, and the albino is 2 A's. So you put the female here and the male there, however you want to do it, and you bring them over. So you got an N that comes over and an A that comes down, and so on. And so it's the same on every one. So everything comes out, in this case the NA, which would be a normal that carries the albino genes. There's only one, so it's 100% head for albino. So albino to normal, you get all het albinos. Then if you do het albino, like one of those babies, like what I did, a het albino to an albino, same thing, you bring them down, NAs, that's het. A comes over, A comes down, that one's albino. A and N, and so on. So you get 50% albinos and 50% het albinos. And they're all albinos, so there's no normals, so they're 100% hets. And if you do a het to a normal, that's the worst thing you can do, because coming across, all you can see is you got normals and het. For albinos, they all look the same, so that would mean that sometimes you see 50% het or 66% het. That's why, because only half of them are hets and you don't know which are which. So 50% of them are, but you don't know which ones. So if you're going to sell them, you pretty much have to sell them as possible hets or as normals. It's kind of a waste of time and money. And if you do a het to a het, you can't hit on it. Bring them over, you get normal. This one's a het, this one's a het, this one's an albino. So take this one out, and you got 3 that are either hets or normal. So 2/3 of them are possible hets. So that's why they say 66% out of the 3. So you have a better chance with the 66%, but it still looks normal. You pretty much just have to sell looks normal. So 2 recessive genes, albino and albino, all you're going to get is albinos. And then this is the codominant genes. This is where you can just do crazy, crazy things. This is dominant, this is codominant, but it works out the same way. So you do, they basically carry one copy because they're, the supers, like the super pastel would be 2 Ps, but it's just a codominant, so it also has normal in its genetics. So it's normal and a pastel, and a normal and a spider. So this is all out of 4 eggs. That's just how they make the chart. So it's 25%. But you get normal, spider, pastel, and then the combination is the bumblebee. So you got a 25% chance of hitting. Each egg is actually 25% chance of this. You usually get about those results. People say, oh yeah, you read this and you're gonna get that. You're not. I did albino to het albino. I got 7 eggs and 6 were albinos. So I wish that would happen every time, but I also did a spider to normal and I got like 6 eggs or 7 eggs and 2 were spiders and the rest were all normals. It doesn't always pay off. So then if you have 2 codominant genes together, the bumblebee, which was that spider and pastel, you got to expand it because you got two different snakes in there. So yeah, I have to say that it's normal, it's a spider, it's a pastel, and it's a bumblebee. And then bring it to normal, so normal's all the way down. So the same thing, you just keep bringing them all across and down and figuring it all out. You can reproduce that immediately just to a normal. So you can get 25% bumblebees, spiders, pastels, and normals. Does that one make sense? Because that one's the confusing one. If you've done it before, it's really easy.
Could it always be male and female?
What's that?
Are they male and female? Like you get 25% of the
If you
whatever.
reverse
Oh yeah. It doesn't matter. The sex, it doesn't matter.
Or some of the sex.
Right. Even like leopard geckos and some other animals, the temperature you incubate them at, it doesn't matter on the ball pythons at all. It's just the luck of the draw there. That's all I have on that. What's going to do next? so the breeding, I should have brought something. Breeding's pretty simple because I've tried to breed all other kinds of reptiles and never had any luck. And this I just threw them together and they made babies. But the main thing is weight and age. And when everybody asks, how big is the ball python? You say 3 feet. It's like, no, I don't care. I want to know how much it weighs, because that's the weight determines if it's big enough to breed. So if you're breeding them, your best friend is a gram scale, because everybody wants to know what does it weigh. And typically the rule of thumb that I go by, because pretty much everybody does, is the females have to be at least 2 years, and they have to be pretty much at least 1,500 grams. And males, they can breed like at 1 year, but they should be at least 700 grams. I like to wait till they're 1,000 if I can. Try not to get too impatient about it. And the bigger the female, the better. If she's 3 years old and 1,400 grams, you could probably do it. But if she's 1 year old and 2,000 grams, I wouldn't do it. She's not old enough. So at least 2 years and at least 1,500 grams. And the way I do it is I take the male, put him in with the female for about 3 days. If he doesn't lock up, or if he does lock up, I take him out, give him a break, put him in with another female for 3 days. So it's 3 days on, 3 days off. And wait till I see ovulation, which sometimes you can miss it, but if you're checking every day, twice a day, you'll see her, she'll be blown up like a football, like she ate a big giant rat, even though you didn't feed it to her. And at that point, then she'll have what they call like the pre-lay shed, the last shed that she has before she lays eggs. And from there, it's about, it could be 2 to 4 weeks before she has eggs. And then I take them away, put them in the incubator, and it takes 50, some people are impatient, but 53 to 60 days before they start hatching. And the temperature, I do about 88 degrees. And once there's a big controversy, people cut them open, people let them hatch on their own. I wait for the first one to start pipping, and then I carefully cut them just so they can get out. I don't pull them out like some people do on all these videos. I just open it up a little bit in case they can't get out, and let them come out. And does anybody have questions on the breeding part?
That's a question. Do you adjust the temperature for the breeding? Like,
Oh,
so
yeah,
you
yeah.
Cool it off?
Being in Southern California, I can't keep up with people where it gets cold because it has to cool down. And even if I cool it down, if I shut off the heat, it's not cold enough. Okay, yesterday it was 400 degrees. But I go in, like New Year's, I'll lower the temperature 10 degrees at night and let that go till like Valentine's Day, and then raise it back up. But I start introducing them as soon as I cool it down. Just put them in there. If they do something, they do it. If not, I'm still pairing them since December. I'm still getting some of the first lockups. So some people are already getting babies. I don't even have any eggs yet. I'm in no hurry. I can sell them when everybody else is sold out, so it works for me. Anything else?
What kind of incubator do you use?
I use, it's called by Nature's Spirit. I bought one, but it's basically just like a small refrigerator, like a wine refrigerator or something like that, but it's professionally made. People convert refrigerators, Coke machines, you use ice chests, as long as it has heat tape in it and a thermostat, you can control it. And you gotta watch the humidity. It's gotta be, you put them in a little tub with vermiculite, and make sure it's not too humid. Usually I just look for condensation on the side of the tubs. If it's on the top of the lid, I sit there and I'll wipe it off. So if the water drips on the eggs, it could kill it. Ask her, I check them every day, twice a day, and just counting the days until they start hatching. And I actually have to take the incubator out of the snake room because it gets too hot in there, so I have to put the incubator in the living room. Thank her for letting me do that. Right next to the TV, so I'm kind of keep looking from the TV to the incubator. Okay. So last thing really, I guess I'm going to talk about the het red a little bit because I was donating one, and this shows some of the morphs. A lot of the stuff I couldn't bring because they're still breeding. Hopefully they're grabbing the females. I didn't bring the males either, but I brought everything else. And so let's do the het red example first.
Come on.
This brought some small ones. The het red examtic threw me off and throws a lot of people off. It's called het, which it does make a red examtic, but it's also a visual morph. You can put this to anything, any other codominant, it's going to affect it, just like the spider or the pastel or something like that. It doesn't look a whole lot different than normal, but typically they have kind of black backs. This one kind of does, and they have usually faded heads and the alien heads. These are the alien heads, if you don't know, little eyeball looks like ET. But they usually have these extended long stripes on the side, especially by their neck. And they get a lot of flames. Once you know what you're looking for, it's easy to tell. I'll show you compared to a normal. This one's actually a het albino. It just looks normal anyways. But even the color, you can see how much more yellow this is. This doesn't have very much yellow. It's kind of almost like a cinnamon or something like that, and it does a lot of things like the cinnamon does. This one doesn't really show alien heads either. It's a really reduced pattern. But I don't know if you can see, it's got a little head spot on it.
Yeah, mine's
real,
got
real
like
faded.
that. When I have a home, it's got something like that.
It's a little bit different. If you bring two het red exanthics together, you can get the red exanthic. Which is a lot different than like the regular exanthics, VPI or snake number exanthics, because they have red in them. This was born, it was black and white, but now it's kind of getting its red colors in it, but there's no yellow in it. It's just kind of cream and this red color, and it's got a real faded out head. It's not real impressive right now. It looked really cool when it was a baby, and they're supposed to look really cool when they're adults. These are my first babies, so I don't know how they're going to look. So and then you can breed the het red to anything. I bred it to a pastel, and I got a couple pastel het red examples. So it's just like a pastel. It's got the het red gene in it. Does anybody have pastels? I don't know if you can see from way up here, but does that look different than your pastel? Can you tell?
It's got a lot of yellow.
Who else did? You guys have pastels?
I don't know glasses, so that's all.
Oh, okay, lemon glass is going to be totally different. But it's got a lot of red in it. And the pattern is quite a bit different. It's a little more crazy, more single dots than a regular pastel. I think it's cool. It's different than a regular pastel. That was an accident.
He seemed to like it.
So something similar to this, the way that they call it a head when it's really not a true head, is like a yellow belly. Two yellow bellies bred together make the ivory. And some people used to call the yellow belly het ivory, but that was too confusing, so they just called it a yellow belly. So this just should be called something different, like something crazy. So does that make sense? The original, it's hard to explain if you don't know. It is a het because it does make a red axanthic, but if you breed a het albino to a spider or pastel, it's not going to affect the way it looks. All you're going to get is hets. Where you breed this to a pastel, and you can see the difference. I'm breeding it to a spider this year, so hopefully I'll get some spiders that are het red axanthic, and then I'm going to breed those back to each other. Hopefully get a spider with the color of the red axanthic in it. So that's a few years down the road. If you breed a het red axanthic to a genetic stripe, you'll get, everything will be het genetic stripe, and then if you breed that back to the genetic stripe, you're going to get a solid copperish brown snake. There's going to be a genetic stripe without the stripe. It's going to be patternless. So just another cool thing that the het red can do. And if there's no questions about het red, I'm just going to start showing some morphs that I have.
Does it act more like a line bred trait? Meaning that if you breed the red axanthics together, does the pattern and color come out more vibrant with each generation?
I'm really not that far yet, but the first pairing that I did, I got 2 het red axanthics from a guy that did or does still work at Cal Zoo, and I just met up with him one time. He said, "You want to buy a pair of black pastels that I got from an import?" He imported one snake that he kept, and he thought it looked cool. He thought it was a black pastel. He read it to Norma about babies. Someone's talking over there.
Just dude.
Yeah. And so I thought, yeah, I'll take 2 black pastels and try to make a super formula to get the solid black snake. But then I started looking at it, and other people were looking at it. It's like, those aren't black pastels. They're just normals. I didn't believe that they were normals. So it took me about 2.5 years to grow them up, bred them together, and got the het red. So now I know, because the mother looks almost normal. So I don't think it's too much line bred. I even try to always keep the best looking ones and see if it affects it.
Why does you say that it doesn't act as a recessive, but it's not? They haven't proven it out to be codominant. Is that why they're not saying it's a recessive?
Only because you can breed it, the het red, like I did to the pastel. If you bred an albino to the pastel, all you're going to get is pastels that are het albinos. You're not going to have anything visual. Where I had 2 pastel het reds come out and 1 regular pastel, and you could totally tell the difference. They're obviously, the het red did something to it. Just like a yellow belly red to a spider, you get the spider yellow belly, it's just a little bit different. So, I don't know what's best for looking at the morphs if people just want to come up. And you guys can't see, I brought an albino. Well, I'll just show you what I brought, then everybody can look at it, you guys. We already talked about the albino recessive morph. She's about 2 years old. This one I took to the birthday party. She didn't invite any kids or anything. People ask, are albinos tamer? And I say no, but I think the reason that it actually might be because you have a pile of albinos and a pile of normals. What one are you going to pick up? The albino, so they get handled a lot more when they're babies, so maybe they're a little bit tamer that way. This is a ghost, another recessive gene. It doesn't look too much different than the normal, except that it looks like it's in shed all the time. And they also call hypos. Does a lot of cool things, and I'll show you what it can do as well. It's an orange ghost, even though it looks kind of green, they just call them orange ghosts, I don't know why. pastel ghost. So this is the ghost with the pastel gene. So you had to breed a pastel to a ghost, then you can get pastels that are het for ghost, and then you have to breed that back to a ghost to get the pastel and the ghost. The other recessive one I have is the genetic stripe. This one's a baby. This one I picked up at the Pomona show in January. But they're cool. Like it says, genetic stripe, with giant stripe down its back. Should have showed my favorite one first. The normal. This is one of the first 5 girls that I bought. She's not breeding this year. She's still kind of small, but this is kind of like the max size. This would be more like a big male. She's kind of small for female. They get this big or a little bit bigger. The bumblebee they were talking about, pastel and spider together. So you kind of get the spider pattern, but more bright yellows. Just a regular spider.
Wow.
Did you get into the head wobble can on the spider?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if anybody's heard of the term head wobble or whatever in spiders, or have any that have it. He's not waking up to begin with, but he has it. He has a pretty big time where sometimes it's a wobble that they just kind of move their head like this a little bit. Sometimes they're corkscrewing all around like crazy. And sometimes it's so bad that they can't even flip themselves over. They get upside down and they're just stuck. They can't flip themselves over. It's neurological. I looked up all kinds of places trying to figure out really what causes it. Nobody seems to have an answer, but I think it's genetics. I think the first one came in and everybody started reading it, and overdid it. And I think that's why when you breed 2 spiders together, they all die, and none of them make it. And that could be also why these guys are so messed up. But I've bred him to multiple normal females, to the pastel, kind of like outcrossing them. And all the babies that I've held back and the people that I know that have babies from him don't have any head wobble at all. So just because it has it doesn't mean you're going to get it.
So when you say breeding it, you really mean they were inbreeding?
Yeah,
They were just inbreeding close to
yeah, they came in and just everybody was just breeding them back to each other, and just they never did any outcrosses. I think that's what caused it. If somebody could go online and find out really what happened, email me because I'd like to know. But that's my theory. I'm trying to see if I kind of wake up and see him moving. But he's a big male. He eats like crazy. He's a beast. See how he's kind of going upside down like that? He just do a loop. Sometimes he misses his food, but a couple strikes and he gets it. Strong feeder, strong breeder, everything's fine. He's just got this weird personality trait where he's just cruising around half upside down. I think a lot of people got out of the spiders because of that reason.
But you get people asking if you got babies that don't have it, just because when they don't have this baby, they do get it when they're mature. So that's along with the bees and all that.
If you see a baby that has it, stay away. Because if it has it as a baby, it's going to be terrible as an adult. When I bought him, he didn't have it at all. It took probably about a year before he started doing that. This one's a black pewter, just similar to a black pastel, or a similar to a pewter. A regular pewter is a black pastel and a pastel. I got that mixed up. A cinnamon is, a pewter is a cinnamon and a pastel. This one's a black pastel and a pastel. So it's just another cool brown form.
Yeah.
This one's a fire. This is one of the few that actually gets lighter as it gets older instead of browning out. Every time it sheds, it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. If you breed two of these together, you get the black eye leucistic. And you breed it to all other things, like I have a vanilla here, I can breed it to, and you get, they call it vanilla cream. It's just crazy whacked out patterns with these colors. This is the vanilla. This one also gets lighter as it gets bigger. You can see compared to the browns on the normal, it's already pretty yellow. So when it gets big, it's going to look really nice. Another one I haven't shown is the yellow belly. It's probably the least impressive. Kind of like a head red xanthic, you can hardly tell the difference. But you breed these two together and you get the ivory. You can see it's kind of got a little bit of yellow on its belly and its sides. That's kind of where the name came from. But typically the sign is just the checkerboarding kind of pattern along the edges and clear down the middle. A little bit of a faded head. And sometimes they have flames. But a lot of people try to pass off normals as yellow belly, so you got to be careful if you're going to buy a yellow belly. I think that's all the snakes that I brought. Donating a female het red xanthic. I don't know if you guys all saw, I have a couple snakes here that are looking for homes, and letting them go for 25% off. Anybody wants anything? If you want to know what it is, what it can do, we can go over it again. I think that's all I have. Any more questions?
You feed live or frozen?
Plug your ears. She doesn't like the feeding part. I mainly feed live just because ball python's a little bit picky. I have one big female that got attacked by a rat, and she actually went on to frozen, so I'm glad for that. I recommend try doing the frozen thought if you can. It's a lot easier, especially when you have a lot of them. But they're picky. They really need to see movement to get them going. I start with mice, little hopper mice. They move around a lot more than a pinky rat. And just move up to rats from there. Anything else? All right. If you want to look at them.
If you guys want to take a couple minutes to go check them out or talk to them one-on-one because you're nervous to ask a question, go for it. And then we'll get a couple more things that pop in my